What if the curriculum we choose isn't quite delivering what it promised? Or what if the curriculum isn't working for your child? Or more importantly, what if it's not working for mom? Because I don't know about you, but that is the number one criteria in this homeschool house. It has to work for me because I can improvise, I can fill in some holes, but if I don't want to come to the table and do it, so what's a mom to do? Adjust. That's the beauty of homeschooling, isn't it? We can make changes mid-year, we can adjust our plans. I mean, if you're in a regular school, they're choosing the curriculum and they are doing it all year long, whether it's working or not. We don't have to do that. And so that's what this video is about today. What did we start with in this home and how are we adjusting our plan? Welcome to my channel where we talk about the plans we make for our home and the plans we make for our homeschool. And hopefully those plans coincide with God's plans because His are going to supersede them anyway. My name is Rachel and I am a homeschooling mom to three, a 7-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 13, almost 14-year-old. And we have been homeschooling since 2015. So I did several videos at the beginning of the school year when I was a very, very, very new YouTuber.
So give me grace on those videos.
But I did what are our family subjects? I did a video on a few of the curriculums that some of my kids are doing. But I did not do a video on everything that we are doing. But I'm going to let you know anyway what we started with and what we're changing. So my first grader, what did I have planned for her? We are doing language lessons for a living education, Singapore math, the good and the beautiful handwriting. We're throwing in a little bit of explode the code here and there. And then I had, with my second child, we had done some Abeka curriculum way back when, and I had only went through half of one of those grammar books. And so I throw that in there, and my first grader kind of alternates when she needs extra work to do. She alternates between Explode the Code and that Abeka workbook. And then we do reading. She has been loving the old-fashioned Dick and Jane readers. I found a bunch of the old ones, like copyright 1950s, 1960s. I found them at a garage sale and picked up several, and those are really awesome for teaching your kids how to read. What changes am I making for my first grader? Nothing. Everything is working fantastic for her. I am making no changes. If you are curious about language lessons for a living education, check out this video where I describe it. And stay tuned on this channel where I am going to be doing a math comparison video very soon. And I'll be comparing Singapore math with Saxon math with teaching textbooks, because all three of those maths are what I have experience with. So we'll be kind of going through those and talking about their differences. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that if that is of interest to you. So my fifth grader, she is doing A Reason for Handwriting, Language Lessons for a Living Education 5, A Reason for Spelling, which I did a video about. Check it out if you want to see what a typical week looks like for spelling. She started out with Singapore math, and I had good intentions of continuing with IEW, Institute for Excellence in Writing, and utilizing a grammar notebook. I described both of those in my family subjects video. Good intentions, but that has not gone very far because Mama only has so much time on her hands. I intended to do some of that with my older son, and we did a little bit of the grammar notebook. Now, I'm not giving up on this grammar notebook yet because it's an interactive notebook, so it kind of utilizes craftiness, and not like a real art project, but it does incorporate cutting and just kind of a creative way to practice learning all the different elements of grammar, like what is a noun, what are the different types of noun, what are the characteristics of nouns, what are verbs, what are different types of verbs, those types of things. So my older two did start on that interactive notebook, and I do intend to pick that part up again. However, we are not going to attempt IEW this year. And some of that has to do with the changes that I needed to make to my junior high son's subjects. So the only change besides IEW that I have made to her is her math. We have used Singapore math from the very beginning of our homeschool journey, and I will explain more about why we chose Singapore math in my math comparisons video. This year, my daughter was needing more and more help and individualized attention on math. And again, I was feeling myself being stretched a little bit. It's not that she doesn't struggle with math, but she tends more towards the creative, right-brained type stuff. And so I decided, you know what? I really need help with math. I'm going to try out the teaching textbooks. It's online. It has like somebody else online teaching, and not like a live class online, but recorded lessons. Somebody else teaches the lesson, and then they can do their math work on the computer. I did the free trial. Teaching textbooks allows you to do 15 lessons for free. So if you're thinking about, but you're not sure, keep that in mind. 15 lessons for free. We did that right before Christmas, and she really enjoyed it. So I decided to go ahead and switch her over to teaching textbooks just to give me a little bit more help so that I could concentrate on the other areas that I really needed to give my attention to. I will go into more detail about teaching textbooks in my upcoming math comparison video, so I don't want to talk about it too much here. One of the other things that I mentioned in my Family Subjects video and also in my Language Lessons for Living Education 5 video was I did want to keep up on some sentence diagramming. We are a former classical conversations family. My daughter has gone through 1 year of that Essentials program, so she was familiar with the IEW already, and she's also familiar with sentence diagramming. I wish that Language Lessons for Living Education did concentrate a little bit more on sentence diagramming, and I'm sure part of that reason is the Language Lessons moves a little bit slower from what I understand than other curriculums. So for next year, are we going to stick with it or not? I don't know. I am honestly very intrigued by the good and the beautiful language arts. So stay tuned and see what we decide for next year. I did also do a video at the beginning of the year where I did a flip through of Language Lessons for Living Education 5, but at the beginning of that video, I also talked about other language arts programs that we had used, including Logic of English, Classical Conversations Essentials, which included Spell to Write and Read. So anyway, I kind of give little brief descriptors about some of those programs if you're curious how Language Lessons for Living Education compares to those. Also in that video, I mentioned that I do a separate spelling curriculum. Is that necessary for every child? Probably not. My child really struggles with spelling though, so I found it necessary to choose a separate curriculum that really dives into that. But Language Lessons for Living Education does include spelling lists. So if you have a child that does not struggle with spelling, you will not likely need a separate spelling curriculum. So just keep that in mind. That is the only reason why we have one. So junior high. I have a video explaining what my plans were for junior high, and I have made several changes there. So in my video, I mentioned we are doing Saxon math. We are doing a Latin program, again, because we came from classical conversations where they do study Latin, and I'm not sure if we're going to go back or not. So if we go back, I didn't want to lose all of the information and knowledge that he had already gained from studying Latin. I wanted to keep that going, so that is why we're doing Latin. And let me just say, Latin is actually really, really cool, especially if you like math, you'll probably like Latin. And with Latin, when you are learning Latin, you are actually also learning the English language better, because you have to know a lot more about the English language in order to understand Latin. So that is one of the benefits. Just don't write it off completely. If you're going to grow up someday and, depending on what your child's interests are, is Latin completely necessary in order to make it in life? No. But there are benefits to it. It's not a dead language. So let me just throw that little quick note in there. He was going to start out with Fix It Grammar from IEW, and then I had gotten from Evan Moore online. I think I ordered it from Amazon or Christian Books, one of those generic type sites. Evan Moore had this daily grammar drill, because one of the things I really wanted to concentrate on with my son this year was his grammar in writing. That was the area where I just felt like we really need to attack. We've got to nail down this grammar and so on and so forth. I mentioned that I was also going to maybe have him do some IEW stuff with my daughter, and then the lost tools of writing, which I explain in a lot more detail in that junior high video. That is an excellent curriculum that Classical Conversations uses the first 3 years of their challenge program. It really is great for persuasive writing and formulating debates and just understanding both sides of an issue and grabbing those issues from books. Excellent program. So what did I change? I got the Good and the Beautiful. I ended up ditching some of these for the Good and the Beautiful. So the Evan Moore, the daily grammar thing was not what I thought. I thought it was going to be like introduce a grammar concept and then here are the ways to practice it so that it can become ingrained in you. And it was not like that at all. It was just not really introducing a concept. It was just, here's some sentences to edit or whatever concept he was practicing, but it wasn't as independent as I was hoping, and I had to constantly grade it and explain all the mistakes that he was making. I wanted something that was independent. Here's the concept, practice it. And it just wasn't like that. So I ditched that one early on. The IEW, I never really had time for. I did have him write a persuasive paper from his Lost Tools of Writing curriculum. So we were also, and I will explain more about what we're changing in our family subjects, but we were doing a gather round unit. I chose one of the books from that reading list and had him read it. And then he chose an issue from that book. So that's kind of how we incorporated it there. So he got one paper under his belt. We're going to take a step back from the persuasive writing and we're going to go back to some grammar basics again. And so I looked into the Good and the Beautiful and I thought, you know what? My son could also use a little bit of art. He's not typically somebody who goes for the artsy stuff. So anyway, I thought this would be good for him. I looked into the Good and Beautiful. He took a placement test and I went ahead and got the Good and the Beautiful level 6. And that has been working out very well right now. It does have sentence diagramming in it. I do love that it's pushing him on the art projects, and I've actually been pleasantly surprised at some of the art pieces that he has come up with. So this is just a really well-rounded language arts program that does incorporate writing still, it incorporates vocabulary, it incorporates grammar practice, and then also reading, and then the art, which is very, very, very cool. So this is probably why I'm intrigued about if I might switch to the Good and the Beautiful language arts for my middle child next year. So we'll see. I'm looking at all options right now. He is still doing the Fix It Grammar because that is editing one sentence a day and it's just very quick and very easy. So he might as well just get as much grammar practice in right now as he can. Saxon. I am going to go more into Saxon in my comparison video. We signed up for the Dive online math help, which is a Dr. Shorman who teaches that lesson, and then my son goes off and does the practice work. I don't know if I will stick with Saxon or not. I'm going to get more into that, like I said, in the math comparison video. Saxon is a different approach than Singapore, and I'm not sure if it's the approach that really works well for us. But we're going to stick with it for this year because I do like that he has another teacher teaching him. I'm also a math girl myself, so I don't have any issue with helping my kids with math. But the help that my son has needed this year with math is one of the reasons why I went ahead and went to teaching textbooks for my middle child, to free up more time so that I could help him. Now the family subjects. I did a family subjects video on what our plans were for this year. We're going to do Gather Round, the free, the good and the beautiful, marine biology, Apologia, Who is God, the IEW, which I've already talked about, the interactive notebook I've already talked about, and I really wanted to do some poetry. So what have we done and what is going to change? Let me start with the Apologia Who is God curriculum. I love it. I haven't done as much with it as I had hoped, but what we have done, I love it. And so I'm excited to figure out how to incorporate more of that into our family style learning so that maybe after Who is God, what was the second one? I think it's Who Am I? So that we can move on to that one. It has worked really well for all ages of my kids, from my first grader up to my oldest. They have all been engaged in it, and they've all been able to even tell their cousins or their grandparents a little bit about what they've learned from it. So that's always a good sign whether or not they're actually absorbing it. Poetry.
Sadly, we haven't done anything with this.
The good news is poetry is incorporated into each of my children's language arts curriculums, so they are still getting a little bit. I just happen to love poetry because I love being creative and write poems, and my dad is a talented poet. So it's kind of our family thing, and I just wanted to teach my kids how to think creatively and be able to come up with something creative that rhymes. So we'll see if we are able to incorporate that in. For the Gather Round, I wasn't quite sure how Gather Round would work out for us, so I did not want to buy all units up front. I wanted to test it first. I did not download the free trial that they had. I do recommend that you do that and try it out with your family first, but I will get more into that because I have a lot of videos coming up. I have an upcoming video where I'm going to compare the Gather Round science unit to the Good and the Beautiful science unit. I'm going to do a review on the Gather Round government unit in more detail, and then why Gather Round did not work for our family.
I'm so sorry for all of you who love Gather Round.
But it just didn't work for us the way that I had really, really hoped. I love the idea of family style learning. I really, really do. It's still going to be at the forefront of my mind when I choose curriculum. However, these particular units, it just didn't work for us, and in those upcoming videos, I will tell you why. So we're finishing up our government unit because there's a lot of good information in there about how our government works. I have enjoyed myself relearning some of these things. So I am going to finish that one out because I do think it's important to just introduce the kids to that. But then once we finish that unit, we're going to move on. The Good and the Beautiful science. We are really enjoying our marine biology unit right now, and we are more than halfway through that unit. And so I am seriously considering if I am going to continue with that one. I have restructured how we have block scheduled our day. Also, an upcoming video, our block schedule day. So If you want to see more of this sort of content and all those videos that I just referenced, make sure you hit the subscribe and hit the bell so that you'll be notified when those videos are up. So until then, bye.